Hello and welcome back to Aetheral Space 17.42 Leap of Faith. We are back. Well, I say I am back. It's just me today. Skipper is away, and you've got me. You just got me. So I'll just be reading it, and we'll see how it goes. The content will remain the same. It's just that it's just me reading it. So we all wish Skipper the best. He's not ill. I'm just going to read the fucking thing. This is Aetheral Space 17.42 Leap of Faith. Day 4. Fist met armour beneath a crimson sky. Go down already! Songshu screamed, face spread into a vicious grin as her fist smashed into Ruth's arm. It was the second punch in a row to land, and so it struck with double the power. That, and the fact that Ruth was only clad in Revolutionaire, was enough to spike her down into the ruined city streets. This had been going on for hours, a game of cat and mouse through the destroyed city ring. The Unseelie could cover ground much faster than her Seelie subordinates, and so Ruth had been forced to engage Oe and Songshu 5 times now. The first 4 times she'd quickly broken off and escaped again, but it seemed that this wouldn't be happening this time. Let me fix that sentence. So what did I do to that one? The first 4 encounters, she quickly, let's make this, managed to break off and escape. You're watching this live, this is how the magic happens. Managed to break off and escape, but it seemed that it wouldn't be happening this time. After all, Oe Matispator was already below, waiting for her. Les forces! Unseelie axe roared, swinging her blackened weapon through the air, and life poured from the blade like paint. Seeing this ability in action, Ruth was somewhat reminded of Iain's Ahura Mazda, but at the same time there were clear differences. This ability seemed far more fluid than Iain's, for one. Whereas Ahura Mazda made her think of a 3D printer, writing something into existence atom by atom, this was more like a daydream being pushed into the real world. Transient, chaotic. Of course, regardless of how it was being done, the fangs were just as sharp. A leonid head stretched forth on a serpentine neck, clamping its teeth around Ruth's arm and whipping her through the air. Having just landed, Ruth couldn't break free straight away, and so she found herself being smashed into the crumbling buildings on the left and the right, hastening their demolition. Ruth destroyed the lion head with a shining crimson punch, breaking free, but Oe was already painting something else. It was just like how Muzazi had said. This duo, Oe and Songshu, preferred to work in tandem in combat. Oe used her life ability, Les Forces, to restrain the enemy, giving Songshu a chance to land successive blows and power up her twin fist utter destruction. The secret to success, then, was to disrupt that teamwork. Songshu appeared once again, right before Ruth. Even discounting her raw strength, the girl's speed was something to be careful of. The third punch was swung, but Ruth arched backwards, letting it pass over her face harmlessly. Well, not harmlessly, the air pressure destroyed the wall behind her, but the fact that Songshu had missed would reset her ability back to the base level. Ruth spun on the spot like she was breakdancing, her legs slashing through the necks of the restraint beasts and cleanly decapitating them. The heads began to decompose immediately, bubbling away. But Ruth still made good use of one, seizing it by the jaw and using it as a shield to block Songshu's next punch. So long as Ruth could stop her opponent from building up momentum, she was good. Well, she was good. Out of the corner of her eye, she could see it. Oe was looking around as they fought, inspecting the surrounding area carefully. She'd realised it. Ruth didn't have permutation in her hands. Where was it then? Come on, Hazley, Ruth thought, leaping up to avoid Songshu's next blow. Stay hidden, kid. Otoe Muzazi was reaching the limits of his manoeuvrability. With permutation held by one arm and an entire person held by the other, his flight was slightly lacking in grace. It was all he could do to weave through the constant hail of projectiles coming from below, and after hours of avoiding them, he was starting to reach his limits. Seelie gunshots scraped by his limbs, barely avoided, and merciless plasma shots slowly wore down his infusions. We're landing, he grunted to his passenger, clad in priest garb. Get ready. Go for it, they whispered back. It was as he accelerated for a few seconds, creating some distance between himself and the legions of Seelie Rangers in pursuit before... Der Freischutz. The panic was immediate. Muzazi's body and mind were caught in an impossible decision. He couldn't see the source of the voice, he couldn't see the source of the shot, but he knew this ability. If he was hit by it while infused with Aether like this, he was done for, his passenger too. In any other situation, the right course of action would have been to deactivate his Aether at the moment of impact. But here and now, that was easier said than done. Musashi was flying, high in the sky. There was no time to land. Deactivating his Aether would mean plummeting, and from a height like this, survival was not guaranteed. Could he reinfuse and reactivate his thrusters before he hit the ground? It was certainly possible, but was he willing to bet his life on it? He took a deep breath. I've certainly bet on worse. The silver sparks vanished from around Musashi's body, and at the same time a bullet slammed into his shoulder. Blood sprayed through the air. Musashi's eyes widened to their utmost, and a choked gasp escaped his throat. In a moment before he fell, he heard the voice of the one that had tricked him. Fool. Just because I say the name, that doesn't mean I'm using the ability. Musashi fell, permutation and passenger alike slipping from his grasp. But before they could hit the ground, he reactivated his thrusters, taking back control and slowing to a less fatal landing. He clutched his wounded shoulder as he looked at the one that had brought him down. A giant of a man, clad in a trench coat and wide-brimmed hat. His features were mostly concealed under his bulky attire, but from the little Musashi could see, he didn't exactly look human. A chill went down his spine. The man lowered the simple handgun he'd used to bring Musashi down. Permutation, he said simply. Hand it over. Musashi pushed himself up into a standing position, still applying pressure to his wound. You really think it would be that easy? He glared. I do. That wasn't the Freischütz I shot you with, but it wasn't an ordinary bullet either. Musashi went to say something in response, but all that came from his mouth was a new spray of blood. He staggered backwards, nearly tripping over the sword of possibilities on the ground. The man with the gun didn't move. The bullet contains a toxin, he explained through gritted teeth. Only I possess the antidote. Don't be stupid. Only I... His attention had shifted to Musashi's bullet wound, rather to the smoke suddenly drifting out of Musashi's bullet wound. There was a glow too, a red-hot glow underneath his skin, like a great heat just out of sight. The red dots barely visible beneath the brim of the man's hat narrowed into slits of reluctant admiration. I see, he said. That's one way to do it. If the bullet was the problem, then all Musashi had to do was burn it and the toxin it carried away. He'd ignited red-hot thrusters within his own body, pouring heat onto the invader from every angle. Needless to say, the pain was excruciating, enough to force Musashi to one knee, but that was better than dying. It's infuriating, the giant muttered, inhuman gaze set on Musashi's form, but I can only go so hard without risking destroying permutation. I'm sure you people understood that too, didn't you? That's why you went to such lengths to make copies. Musashi ignited a radiant from his free hand. There's no reason for me, he forced out, to discuss such things with you. Quite right, the giant straightened up. Tirada, bring me the sword. There was a flash of movement at the edge of Musashi's periphery, and in an instant an enemy was upon him, a young man with shaggy dark hair and a scarf pulled up over his mouth, wielding what looked like a sword sealed inside a box. Without a sound, that bizarre weapon swung through the air towards Musashi's head. The sneak attack was fluid and formal, like it had been plucked right out of a textbook. Ordinarily, such an enemy and such a strike would have been well within Musashi's ability to respond to. However, the damage he had suffered, and the lingering toxin in his veins, dragged that edge away. Already, he knew that he would be just 2 steps too slow. Luckily, though, he wasn't alone. Musashi closed his eyes. Pisces paint! The person in the priest robes, who had been flung to the ground a short distance away, raised their hand, and their palm flashed with colours sharp and cruel. With Musashi's eyes squeezed shut, he was safe, but the 2 Ilseeli present got an eyeful of the secret weapon. Tirada stopped in his tracks, motor functions grinding to a halt, while the giant stood unperturbed. With a body like his, perhaps he no longer perceived the world the way a human did anyway. All he said, with the slightest hint of amusement, was, I see. It seems you people have tricks too. There were only a few places in the city ring that had escaped the bombardment. This bunker, located beneath a former government building, was one of them. Compared to the defences that Zipan could offer, it was pathetic. It had barely survived the bombing. But right now, the person that had arrived here had felt grateful all the same. Holding a clumsily painted club of metal in her hand, wearing the noblesse set of Ruth Blaine's armour, they descended the last few steps and approached the dust-fossilised console in the centre of the room. Brother Worm removed his helmet. It had been Dragana's idea for the 2 variants to switch places. The enemy already knew about her freezing ability, so they'd be on guard for it, whereas if they thought she was Worm, they'd basically consider her a non-combatant. So Dragana had gone with Muzazi, wearing Worm's robes, while Worm had disguised himself in a noblesse set and posed as her. That wasn't the only trick they'd pulled either. A worm thumped the metal club he was holding against the door frame, and it finally cracked apart like an egg, revealing the treasure within. A shining sword. Permutation. The true permutation. It felt strange, Worm supposed, to be so close to the thing that had truly brought him into this world. His birth, his youth, his self-discovery, his life, all of that was fiction. The fact of the matter was that Worm had sprung fully formed from this sword clasped in his hand. Soon enough, Zepan would figure out the trick they'd pulled, not truck, but now they had some time. He'd managed to shake the smaller forces that had been sent after him. They wouldn't find this bunker right away. That meant he wouldn't be disturbed. Worm swallowed. Somehow that seemed more frightening than the alternative. His gaze was fixed on the console, on the microphone protruding from its side. Worm's role here was simple. He was no fighter, and nobody wanted him to sacrifice himself for their escape. His utility, then, was singular, his connection to the final church. He was to man this console, find a connection, and speak to the forces that were now surrounding the city. Right now, permutation was the key to Pandoshu's plans. The church would be very pleased to be able to keep out of his hands, if Worm could convince them, if Worm could have to believe he was who he said he was. Access codes and passwords, those things in his head were probably nonsense, but was his philosophy true? The shape of his heart, would a fellow member of the final church recognise it? Only one way to find out. Let me just have a quick drink. Taking a deep breath, he approached the console and began tapping away. The monitor had seen better days, cracked and caked with dust. Looking at it was like seeing the world through cataracts. Worm squinted, slowly reading through the console commands as carefully as he could. He was no neophyte with technology, but he couldn't exactly be called a hacker either. If you understood this right, though, the communications function was simple. He would just had to designate the target area, and it would also allow you to connect to the receiver in that area with the most stable link. Worm's finger hovered over the button. This was ridiculous. He had countless members of interacting with other members of the final church, but now fiction would become reality for the first time. His finger came down. "Hello?" he said, voice shaking. For a moment, silence. Then, a man's voice came back. "Identify yourself." Your coordinates are within the barrier. Are you authorized to negotiate on behalf of Zepan? Identify yourself." God damn, give me a second. Worm steeled himself and opened his mouth. No, I'm not from Zepan. I'm a member of the final church like you. Brother Worm. WYRM, like a dragon. There was another moment of silence as the speaker considered Worm's words. Then, "Do you have your identifier code?" Worm's hands tightened into fists. I have a identifier code. What do you mean? My situation is unique. I'm not sure my code would be valid if I could just speak to someone in charge. Relay your identifier code? There was no sympathy in the man's voice. Deep down, Worm already knew what would happen, but he went for it anyway. Squeezing his eyes shut and cringing at his own circumstances, he rattled off a series of letters and numbers. A code he remembered speaking countless times, spoken for the first time. The first answer was just a static on the other end. No doubt the operator was cross-referencing the code on their end. On their side, I'll make that. No doubt he'd soon come back with, "That code's not valid. There's nobody called Brother Worm in our database. You're an imposter." Oh, fuck it. If Brother Worm couldn't convince his people, then Dragon Hadrian would have to do it. Worm opened his cold blue eyes. "Terminating... I'm the one in possession of permutation," Worm said simply. "Does that name mean anything to you?" No reply. None at all. In fact, when words did come from the console next, they came from a completely different voice. One that Worm actually recognised. "Permutation," mused the chorister. "How do you know about that?" "There was chaos at Oberon last night," Worm explained. "Permutation was stolen. It's changed hands a few times. And now it's with me, chorister." "You know me?" "Yes." Worm nodded. I know you, but you don't know me." Realization dawned in the chorister's voice. "One of the Hadrian variants, I take it." "That's right," Worm said. In the version of events that led to me, I serve under you in the final church. We're allies." "Tell me," the chorister spoke with a note of interest. Are you as powerful as the original Dragon Hatred? Lie? No, he would know. I'm not, Worm replied quietly. That's not the sort of life I chose. And what sort of life did you choose? Worm clenched his fists. This was a question he'd heard before, in a conversation that had never truly happened. Permutation's delusions truly were accurate, weren't they? I want to look at stars, Worm murmured. To look for something bigger than me and know it's there, waiting to be spotted, to be seen. They didn't have time for this. They had to get down to business. Worm stepped forward, as if the chorister could somehow see him on the other side of the screen. I know you have ways of interfering with Zepan despite the barrier, he said seriously. My teleportation ability is hardly unique. You don't want to slowly trickle in and start a protracted fight, but I bet you could still help us, right? What do you have in mind? Get me and my friends out of here, Worm said, walking over and seizing hold of permutation from where he'd left it. I'll just make that a bit more clear. He's not like pulling that and sword out of stone. And you'll get your hands on this. There was a moment of silence. I can't see what you're holding. Oh, Worm blinked. I'm holding permutation. The sword. I'm holding it up right now. Oh, we would like that. How about it then? Worm smirked with confidence he didn't feel, a bead of sweat crawling down his temple. Why not take a leap of faith? Some would call it a gamble. Would you? Tap, tap, tap. Over the communications channel, Worm could hear the chorister tapping his finger against something. That'll tick. Perhaps it was quietly talking things over with Mealy. Did she exist? Worm hoped so. The chorister returned. One last question. Of course, Worm said, his mouth dry. Where do your loyalties lie, Brother Worm? The chorister asked. With the imaginary final church in your memories, or the real allies you found in Zepan? Worm took a deep breath. My loyalties lie with why, he spoke the truth. No matter where I go, no matter what form I take, that fact will never change. I see, the chorister said, and there was a trace of approval in his tone. Sit tight then. Help is on the way. A door creaks open in the stained red sky. Well, a voice breathed from the dark. This looks like fun. And that's the end of this week's chapter. I do have to post-face this with a brief apology, because unfortunately it is a one-chapter week. I've been extremely fucking busy this week. I do apologise, guys. I'll do a couple of quick Aether questions, and we'll see what happens. So Hawks asks, what would happen if Perfect Palace, Palisade Princeton was used in, saying, Hotel de Sade and vice versa? These are actually pretty compatible abilities, I would say, because P4 specifically works by shrink. It's actually more of a shrinking ability that's dressed up as like going somewhere else. You're just in a very small space. So it could probably be used in de Sade and probably vice versa, to be honest. I don't think you'd have much of a problem. Lan asks, if a pregnant person used loads of Aether during their pregnancy, how would it affect the child? It would depend. It would depend on how they're using their Aether, what sort of Aether ticks they have, what their abilities are. If we go for like a default, just infusion, let's say, just normal infusion, no ticks or anything, you will get, like, I don't know, a strong baby. You'll get a very durable child. And next question. Okay, this next one I don't quite understand, to be honest. If I channel Aether into my baby to make it stronger / better adaptable, can I do unethical Aether Crispar stuff? I don't know what Crispar is, unfortunately. But I assume it's like some eugenics shit. You could probably do eugenics. There's room for that in the skill tree. But yes, that'll be it for this week. I apologise for if my narration was not so good. Skipper has the better mind and soul. But I hope you enjoyed it. I hope this was good. And I apologise again for the one chapter week. I do feel very bad about it. I'm going to do my best to have some longer chapters next week as to make up for this. And at some point the video will end, so do keep in mind. I keep talking, but it will end eventually. And in fact, it's going to end right now. So thank you for watching, everyone. And I will see you next time. And I hope you have fun in your daily life. What the fuck am I talking about? Bye.